My husband is always late for everything, so I simply stopped stressing about it. Peter never manages to be on time when it comes to me. It's impressive. If we're going out to dinner with my parents, you can bet he'll be about 40 minutes late. At my sister's wedding, we missed the entire ceremony because he needed just 5 more minutes to fix his hair. What irritates me the most is that when it comes to his friends, he turns into a different person, super punctual, ready before everyone else. All it takes is for Andre to text him suggesting a happy hour, and Peter is already grabbing his keys before he even finishes reading the message. That difference in behavior ate away at me from the inside, but he just laughed and said I was exaggerating every time I complained. Your friends are more laid back, he'd say, as if that justified disrespecting everyone in my life. Until 3 weeks ago, when I finally lost my patience. My best friend Claire was only passing through the city for one night. She had just gotten engaged and wanted to celebrate with me before heading back to Seattle. We booked a table at that wonderful rooftop restaurant for 8 p.m. I was thrilled, thinking only about hearing every detail of the proposal and seeing her ring up close. At 7:45, Peter was still sprawled on the couch in his pajamas, scrolling through TikTok. Love, we need to leave now, I said, starting to get nervous. He didn't even look at me. Claire can wait. She always waits. At 8:15, he finally started moving. Stop rushing me. You make me anxious, he complained, while I checked the time every 5 minutes. We arrived at the restaurant at 9:30. Claire was alone at the bar staring at her phone. She smiled when she saw me, but it was obvious how upset she was. I got worried. I thought something had happened, she said. The kitchen was already closing. We didn't even get to have dinner. She had to leave shortly after to catch her early flight, and I barely got to enjoy that moment with her. That night, I decided I had to do something. Then came last Saturday. Alex, Peter's childhood best friend, was coming from Chicago for just one night before moving permanently to London for a new job. They had been planning that farewell for months. It was all Peter talked about. I can't believe it. 20 years of friendship and we only have this one last night. The plan was to meet Alex at Murphy's Pub at exactly 8 o'clock, but he could only stay until 10 because he had an early international flight. Peter had even taken the day off because he was so nervous about the goodbye. At 7:50, he was still in the shower. At 8:05, drying his hair. At 8:20, parading shirt after shirt, asking me which one looked better. Normally, I would already be losing my mind, running around trying to hurry him up, but this time I stayed calm on the couch, painting my nails, watching him waste time. Aren't you going to rush me? He asked, surprised. No, I replied calmly. Go at your own pace, love. At 8:45, he was finally ready. See? We had plenty of time, he said confidently. I told you there was no need to rush. We arrived at Murphy's at 9:35. Peter practically ran inside, searching for Alex among the crowd. I already knew what he was going to find. An empty table. No Alex. I watched Peter's face crumble when he tried calling his friend and it went straight to voicemail. He sent a message. Nothing. Finally, he called Christine, Alex's girlfriend. Peter? She said, surprised. Alex left about 20 minutes ago. He waited as long as he could, but the Uber was already there to take him to the airport. He really wanted you to make it on time. Just this once. His flight leaves in an hour. I watched my husband fall apart in front of me. His hands were shaking when he hung up. 20 years of friendship, and the final goodbye was this missed moment. Why didn't you warn me? He turned to me, his voice breaking. You knew how important this was. You just sat there while I got ready. This is your fault. My fault? I stood up, calmly. Peter, when was the last time I didn't remind you? When was the last time I didn't stress myself out trying to get you out the door on time? At dinner with Claire? At my work party? At my sister's wedding? You never apologized for any of it. He stood still, hands trembling. But you always forgave me in the end. How many times were you late with Andre this year? I asked suddenly. He didn't know what to say. He opened his mouth and closed it. He went silent, thinking, until he realized he couldn't remember a single time. His phone rang and his expression changed instantly. I have to go. He rushed toward the door. Peter, what happened? My mom just texted. She's in the hospital. She fell hours ago and was trying to reach me. The words hung in the air for a second, and he rushed out with his keys in hand. I stayed there at Murphy's, surrounded by the typical noise of a Friday night. People laughing, glasses clinking, a basketball game playing on the bar's TV. The bartender wiped down the counter and looked at me with the expression of someone who's seen it all before. I grabbed my phone and saw a missed call from Joan, Peter's mother, from about 2 hours earlier. She had tried to reach me because she couldn't get in touch with him. My stomach dropped. I went straight to Northwestern Memorial. On the way, all I could think about was Joan lying there, hurt, calling her son over and over while Peter was at home choosing the perfect shirt like he was getting ready for a photo shoot. The city lights blurred past the window, traffic heavy, everyone heading to dates, dinners, living their lives, and me feeling like everything was falling apart in slow motion. At the ER, I found Peter in the waiting room, bouncing his leg the way he does when he's nervous, pale, hands clasped together. They're setting her hip now, he said without looking at me. It broke in 2 places. She fell down the basement stairs. How long ago? I asked, already knowing the answer would hurt. He swallowed. Around 6:30. She called 14 times. It was already past 10. I did the math. Joan had spent more than 3.5 hours lying on the cold basement floor, in pain, trying to reach her son, who was too busy getting ready to answer. The hospital, with its harsh, cold lighting, felt even more impersonal. A child was crying somewhere down the hall. The strong smell of antiseptic burned my nose. A nurse came out and told us we could see her. Peter stood up immediately, and I followed him down the white hallway, our footsteps echoing. When we entered the room, Joan was lying in bed, her leg in a cast, her face pale with pain and exhaustion. But the moment she saw Peter, her expression changed in a way I had never seen before. It became cold, rigid, as if she were looking at a stranger who had cut in line at the grocery store. "I called you 14 times, she said in such a neutral voice it sounded like she was speaking to a stranger, not her only son. Peter moved closer to the bed, trying to take her hand. "Mom, I'm sorry. I was getting ready to see Alex and didn't see my phone." "I know," Joan interrupted, pulling her hand away. "I stopped calling after the 6th time because I understood what you were doing. You were teaching me that not even my emergencies matter." The room fell silent. Only the sound of the machines and oxygen filled the space. Peter opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He stared blankly, as if she had switched languages. "Mom, please, I didn't mean—" "Peter, leave," she said coldly. "I want to speak to your wife alone." "What? No, Mom, I just got here." I had never heard Joan speak like that, not in all the years I'd known her. She had always been sweet, understanding, the type who even apologizes when someone bumps into her. Peter looked at me, expecting me to fix everything, like always, but I stayed still, my purse still on my shoulder. He shuffled out into the hallway, and I heard him lean against the wall outside. Joan waited until the door closed, and then looked at me with a weariness that had nothing to do with medication or broken bones. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice lower now but still firm. "When I was lying on the basement floor, I thought about calling one more time, but after the 6th voicemail, I just stopped." She tried to adjust herself in bed, winced in pain, and when I went to help her, she stopped me with a gesture. I stayed there for 90 minutes. I chose to wait for my neighbor to come back from her book club instead of calling Peter a 15th time. "Joan, let me finish, dear." Her hand found mine, cold and thin. "I allowed it for 30 years. I watched him do the same thing to you and never said anything because he was exactly like his father. Robert was also late for everything, even to my mother's funeral, even to Peter's birth. I was already in labor while he was finishing a poker game with his friends." She took a deep breath, trembling, and I watched her eyes fill with tears. But there, lying on those stairs, staring at the ceiling, feeling my hip scream in pain, I decided I would rather break my hip than keep teaching him that there will always be someone waiting, that his time matters more than mine, than yours. "You shouldn't have gone through that," I said, crying too. "I shouldn't have, but I did. And do you know what was the worst part?" She squeezed my hand tighter. "When I stopped calling, I felt relief, like I had finally stood up for myself, even lying there in the basement with a broken hip. Isn't that crazy? You're still young enough to start over," Joan said. "I wasted decades making excuses, telling myself it was just the way Robert was, that loving someone meant accepting their flaws. But that's not a flaw. It's a choice. There is always a choice about who matters." I didn't know what to say. I had always thought Joan was happy in her marriage until Robert died 3 years ago. I never imagined she felt that way. "Don't do what I did," she asked. "Don't wait 30 years to realize that your time matters too." I drove home feeling dazed, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. It was already close to midnight. The streets were quiet, just a few cars heading home, people returning from work or from a bar. When I walked into the apartment, Peter was on the couch, glued to his phone, typing and deleting messages nonstop. His laptop was open on Expedia, the screen filled with flights to London. "I'm going to London next week," he announced without even looking at me. "I'm going to apologize to Alex face to face. I'll prove to him it was just bad timing." "Bad timing?" I repeated, setting my bag down slowly. "Peter, you had 4 hours to get ready." He made an impatient gesture without taking his eyes off the computer. "Alex knows I'm always late. He's exaggerating. 20 years of friendship and he can't forgive one mistake." I sat down in front of him and stared at him. His hair was still perfect, not a single strand out of place after all the time he'd spent getting ready. "Why didn't you leave on time today?" He finally looked up from his phone, irritated. "Because I didn't think it made that much of a difference. Alex knows how I am. He should have waited longer." "He waited almost an hour and a half, Peter. He had a flight to catch." "Come on, I'll fix it when I see him." "And your mother?" When I mentioned the 14 calls, his face hardened. "That's not fair. I didn't know she was hurt. How was I supposed to know?" "You didn't answer. You didn't even look at your phone because you were too busy fixing your hair for a friend who didn't even end up seeing you. Why is everyone against me?" he said, standing up and pacing back and forth. "I messed up, okay? Everyone messes up. My mom will forgive me. Alex will forgive me. Everything will calm down, and they'll see they're exaggerating." I watched him walk around, completely convinced that everything would turn out the way it always did. "When was the last time you were late to see Andrew?" I asked softly. He stopped cold, looked at me, opened his mouth, closed it. He was clearly trying to remember. He stood there in silence for a long moment. I don't know. I think it never happened. It never happened. Not once in the 5 years I've known you. So what? What's your point? Why does Andrew deserve punctuality while I only get excuses? His jaw tightened. I could see him searching for an answer that wouldn't sound stupid. Andrew wouldn't put up with it, he finally said. Simple, honest, devastating. So you respect people based on how much disrespect they're willing to tolerate, I said slowly, weighing every word. Are you saying that because I put up with it I don't deserve your respect? That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant, Peter. He ran his hands through his hair, messing it up for the first time that night. Look, I'm going to do better, okay? I'll set more alarms or something. I'll try harder. He spoke the way someone promises to pick up bread on the way home, like it was a minor detail that could be fixed with an app and a casual promise. The next day, Peter actually woke up early, set an alarm, and ended up waking me too at 7:30 a.m. I'm going to see my mother, he announced, already in jeans and a clean shirt, with that confident air of someone who believes everything can be solved with an apology and maybe some flowers from the hospital gift shop. I stayed quiet, just sipped my coffee and watched him leave, grabbing his wallet and keys like he was heading out on an important mission. Half an hour later, he was already back. I was still in my pajamas, looking at my phone. He walked in pale, his hands shaking. The hospital wouldn't let me in, he said in a low, lost voice. They said my mother left clear instructions. I'm not allowed in her room. He looked genuinely disoriented, as if someone had told him the sky was green and the grass was blue. She's never refused to see me before. Never. Not even when I forgot her birthday. Not even when I skipped her retirement party. Maybe she got tired of waiting, I said. His eyes narrowed. It was you. You turned her against me. What did you say to her yesterday? I didn't say anything, Peter. I just listened to your mother tell me she lay on the basement floor for an hour and a half, choosing to wait for a neighbor rather than call you a 15th time, because she didn't want to keep teaching you that her emergencies don't matter. She's exaggerating. She's on pain medication. She's not thinking clearly. I think it's the first time she's thought clearly in 30 years. Peter grabbed his keys again. I'll try again. They can't keep me from seeing my mother. I'll talk to the nurses, to her doctor. They can, and they will, because she's the one who asked for it. He stood there in the middle of the living room, keys in hand, completely lost. This wasn't how Peter's world worked. People got upset, sure, but then he showed up with his usual charm, smiled apologetically, said sorry, and everything was forgiven. Life went on. The idea that someone would actually set a boundary with him, refuse to see him, was completely absurd to someone who had never truly heard the word no. While he spent the rest of the day calling the hospital, each call growing more frustrated and louder, I could hear it even from the bedroom. I did what I'd been avoiding for a long time. I went to my office and pulled out the old calendars I'd kept from the past few years. I'm the kind of person who writes everything down. Appointments, plans, what was supposed to happen, and what actually happened. I flipped through page after page, and there it was. Years of records I'd never looked at all together. My sister's baby shower, scheduled for 2. I arrived at 3:40, circled in red. A co-worker's farewell party before she moved to Porto Alegre, scheduled for 7. Arrival, 8:55. My father's 60th birthday dinner, scheduled for 6:30. I arrived at 8:10. I missed the entire dinner. I only caught dessert, page after page. My life measured by the time I spent waiting. How many times I stared at my phone, making excuses to people asking where we were, feeling embarrassed and frustrated, my chest tight. Then I looked at Peter's calendar, which he only used for his own commitments, work and things like that. Super Bowl party with friends, arrived early. Andrew's wedding, arrived with plenty of time to talk to everyone. Work meetings, always on time, often early. Important presentation, arrived ahead of schedule, of course. Poker night with friends, never late, sometimes even early to help set up. I spread all the calendars out on the table. It looked like a crime scene. 5 years of proof that my husband was perfectly capable of being punctual. He just wasn't, with me. Peter came home at the end of the day, defeated after more failed attempts to see Joan. Apparently, he tried to enter the hospital 2 more times and was turned away both times. He found me sitting at the table, surrounded by open calendars, post-its, my handwriting pointing out patterns I'd never wanted to see. "What are you doing?" he asked warily. I showed him one of the calendars, his arrival time at Andrew's promotion celebration dinner last March. 7:58 p.m. for an 8-odd reservation, 2 minutes early, then another one. My arrival time at my company's end-of-year party, 9:15 p.m. for an event that started at 7:30. I had to give my speech after dessert, Peter. My boss's wife had already left. His face turned red. "Are you really digging through old calendars to prove this? You arrived on time to every single one of Andrew's events in the last 5 years. Everyone, no exceptions." I stood up, my legs stiff from sitting so long. "But you were late to 83% of mine." I literally counted. I sat here and counted. This is insane. What's insane is not having seen it before. What's insane is having kept making excuses for you when everything was right in front of me. Peter dropped into the desk chair and stared at the calendars for a long time, as if they were written in another language. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, low, stripped of defenses. Do you want to know the truth? I waited, my heart racing. Being late to your things made me feel like I had some power in this relationship. My stomach turned to ice. What? Your career is better than mine. You make more money. You got promoted twice while I stayed stuck. Your friends like you, they call you, ask for your advice, plan things around your schedule. He couldn't look me in the eyes. You're good at everything you try. You started playing tennis last year, and within 3 months you were already better than me. And I've been playing since high school. So it was never about poor organization? No, he said, and the sentence hung in the air. It was about reminding you that I matter too. That you can't just move through life being perfect while he gestured vaguely at himself, average. The guy who peaked in college and then fell behind. It was about power, I said, feeling an enormous emptiness. I think so. Making you wait was the only thing I could control. The only moment when you had to adapt to me, and not the other way around. I felt a knot in my throat like I couldn't breathe. All those apologies over the years. All that sorry and love. I lost track of time. I didn't realize how late it was. Cold, calculated lies. I want you to leave, I said. Peter lifted his head immediately. What? I want you out of this house. Are you overreacting? That's so like you. Always making a storm out of nothing. Your mother is in the hospital and doesn't want to see you. Your best friend of 20 years blocked your number. When do you think people are going to start forgiving you again? Peter stood up, and I saw that familiar confidence return to his face like a mask. They will. They always do. My mom will calm down. Alex will eventually realize he's exaggerating, and you'll calm down too. Then we'll fix everything like we always do. He said it with such certainty because up until that moment it had always been true. That's why this time had to be different. I couldn't sleep that night. Peter stayed in the guest room. I made sure of it. I practically locked the door to our bedroom until he understood the message. I lay awake in our bed, thinking about what Joan had said, imagining her lying on the cold basement floor, choosing pain over making that 15th call. Around 2 a.m, my phone rang. Unknown number. My heart felt like it was about to burst out of my chest. Hello? Hello. We're calling from Northwestern Memorial Hospital. This is about Joan Hendricks. Are you listed as her emergency contact? My heart almost stopped. Yes. Mrs. Hendricks is stable, but she asked us to call you. She said it was important and couldn't wait until morning. May I transfer the call? Yes, please. The hold music, soft jazz, felt completely out of place against the panic I was feeling. Then Joan's voice came through, sleepy but steady. Dear, I'm sorry to wake you. I didn't want to wait until morning. I need you to understand why I chose not to call Peter that 15th time. Joan, you should be resting. When I was lying there on the floor, I thought about calling again. Just one more time. Maybe he'd answer. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe if I said I was really hurt, he'd pick up. She breathed with difficulty. But then I imagined you sitting alone in restaurants, waiting at events, making excuses to family about why your husband never makes the effort to be on time, making yourself smaller so he could feel more important. I was crying in the dark bedroom, tears falling silently. And then I understood that if I called again, I'd be telling you to keep waiting too. I'd be teaching that this is what love looks like, accepting crumbs of respect and calling them a feast. I chose to feel pain, Joan said, her voice breaking. I stayed there suffering because you deserve more than what I taught him was acceptable. I taught my son that women always wait, that our time is worth nothing, that we forgive everything if a man apologizes with a smile. And it hurts me deeply that I did that to you. It's not your fault. Yes, it is. I spent 40 years making things easier for Peter's father. I watched Robert make me wait, and I smiled. I forgave him because that's what a good wife does. And Peter learned by watching us. He thought it was normal, but it isn't. It never was. We talked for about 20 more minutes until a nurse came in and said she needed to rest. I went back to bed, but I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about patterns, about choices, and about how love should never feel like constant disregard. The next day, I received a message on Instagram from someone named Christine. Hi, I hope this isn't strange. I'm Alex's girlfriend. Peter has been texting him nonstop since Saturday night, and Alex is doing really badly because of it. I found your profile through photos where you're tagged together. I hope you don't mind. I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring. Thank you for talking to me, Christine said, her voice warm. Alex has been devastated since that day. He thinks he did something wrong that ruined their friendship. He keeps replaying their last conversation, trying to understand what he said that made Peter not show up. Peter was just late, I explained. That's all. There was no fight or anything. He just took too long getting ready. I know, his messages say that. Sorry, man. I lost track of time. You know me. But Alex doesn't understand. He keeps saying Peter had never missed something important before. Christine paused. He cried on the plane. He really cried over losing Peter, over leaving for London without resolving things. And Peter didn't even bother to show up on time on his friend's last day in the country. What kind of friend does that? I thought about 20 years of friendship thrown away because Peter needed 40 more minutes to get his hair perfect. Can I tell Alex something? I asked. Please. He needs to hear something that makes sense. Because right now he only blames himself. Tell him it wasn't his fault. Tell him Peter makes everyone wait. His wife, his mother, anyone outside his bubble. Tell him he missed his own mother's emergency because he was getting ready to see him. And tell him I'm very sorry my husband hurt someone who truly deserved his time." Christine went silent. His mother was hurt and he didn't answer? A broken hip? 14 calls? He didn't answer a single one? That's right. When I showed the conversation to Peter that night, I took a screenshot because I knew he'd only believe it if he saw it. He barely looked at it, swiped quickly, and handed the phone back to me. "Alex is being dramatic. He'll get over it. I'll fix it when he comes back from London in a few months." I stared at him. "Peter, Alex isn't coming back. He moved. It's permanent. His job is there now. Then I'll visit him. London isn't that far. You get on a plane, we have a drink. I explain what happened. He said it like he was hopping over to the next city, not like someone who'd have to cross an ocean to apologize for destroying a 20-year friendship. Do you understand it wasn't just missing a goodbye?" I asked. "You destroyed someone who loved you. God, you're so dramatic. Just like him." Peter went back to his phone, scrolling. I don't even know what. It was just one night. Sometimes people miss things. He'll understand when he cools down. That night, everything changed. Peter's Aunt Linda called around 8. Even with the phone pressed to his ear, I could hear her sharp, frantic, desperate voice. Peter's face went from irritated to confused, and, within seconds, to terrified. "What do you mean she had a stroke?" he said, jumping up, grabbing the keys, making that nervous hand gesture. I grabbed my keys from the counter. We got to the hospital in 15 minutes. Peter ran through the hallways, truly ran, so fast around the corners that nurses told him to slow down. I had never seen him run for anything related to me, but this time he was frantic. But when we reached the ICU, the doctors were already coming out, and their expressions said everything. It was too late. Joan was gone. "It was a clot caused by the fall," they said. "These things happen, especially with hip fractures in older people, particularly when treatment is delayed." The clot traveled to her brain. She was laughing with a nurse one moment, and the next, she was gone. Peter collapsed right there, crying against the wall, his whole body shaking. I sat beside him because, despite everything, he was still my husband, and his mother had just died. That comes before anything else. I never got to apologize, he kept repeating through tears, his face red and blotchy. I never got to tell her I understood, that I was going to do things differently. She died thinking I didn't care. She knew, I said softly. "What?" He looked at me with swollen eyes. "She knew you understood. That's why she didn't want to see you. She didn't want an apology. What she wanted was change." "How do you know that?" "Because she told me. She said she'd rather break her hip than teach you one more time that there will always be someone waiting." Peter covered his face with his hands. We stayed sitting on that cold hospital floor for over an hour, I think. People walked by, giving that sympathetic look of those who deal with grief every day. Then we went home because there was nothing else to do. The hospital had to follow its procedures. The rest we'd handle the next day. The funeral was 4 days later. 4 days with Peter wandering through the house like a ghost, not eating, barely sleeping. I wore black, an old dress I'd bought for another funeral. Peter wore a wrinkled suit because he'd forgotten it at the dry cleaner and only remembered the morning of the burial, when it was already too late. We arrived 15 minutes late to his own mother's funeral. I had said we should leave at 9, but at 9:10 he was still looking for his shoes. At 9:15 I checked the time. When we arrived, people were already leaving the condolence line. Peter tried to sit beside me, but I moved to another row, between some cousins I barely knew. I felt the stares, the whispers. Let them talk. Aunt Linda gave the speech. She talked about Joan's strength, her generosity, her unconditional love for her son. Even so, she said something that made everyone shift uncomfortably in their seats and left the room in complete silence. Joan made some decisions in her final days that surprised many people, Linda said, her voice breaking. Last week, while she was in the hospital, she called her lawyer and changed her will. She left everything to the Children's Hospital Foundation. Peter lifted his head immediately. I saw confusion and then anger flash across his face. His mouth fell open. Someone behind me even gasped. After the ceremony, in the lawyer's narrow office that smelled of old paper and coffee, we learned everything. The house, the savings, the life insurance, everything went to charity. Peter was completely excluded. He didn't receive even a symbolic amount. He was cut out of the will. The lawyer, an older man with kind eyes, handed Peter an envelope. "Your mother left this for you," he said carefully. Peter's hands were shaking as he opened it. I didn't see what was written, but it was obvious how his face collapsed instantly. His eyes filled with tears. His jaw tightened. He had to sit down. Later in the car, he told me what those lines said. His voice was empty, defeated. "My son never valued my time while I was alive. He will not benefit from my death. Perhaps now he will understand that actions have consequences. Even if I am no longer here to see him learn that lesson. I love you, Peter. I will always love you, but I cannot reward you for breaking my hip by ignoring my calls. I hope you become the man I always believed you could be. I'm sorry that only now I'm showing you that you needed to change. With love, Mom." We went home in silence. Peter didn't try to justify himself, didn't say Joan had been cruel or unfair. He just stared out the window, as if he were seeing a new world he no longer recognized. That night, while he was showering, a long shower, because I think it was the only place he could cry without me seeing, I calmly packed his things. No anger, no drama, just method and quiet resolve. Jeans, shirts, shoes, toiletries, laptop, chargers. I put everything into the suitcases we had used on our honeymoon in Greece 6 years earlier. The blue one, with the noisy wheels. When Peter came back, he had gone to his friend Andrew's place looking for comfort. The suitcases were already by the door. He arrived half an hour later than the time he had said he would. He looked at them and even laughed. A surprised, almost disbelieving laugh. "You can't be serious." I opened the front door. The night air came in cool and sharp, typical of October in Chicago. "Where am I supposed to go?" he asked, the laughter gone. "Anywhere but here. And try not to be late. This house is mine too. You can't just kick me out. I pay half the mortgage." "You're right, I can't." I picked up my own suitcase. The smaller one, just enough for a few days. "But I can leave." I walked past him, smelled his shampoo, got into the car. My phone started ringing before I even left the garage. Peter calling. I watched the phone vibrate on the passenger seat. I saw his name light up on the screen. Husband, with a heart emoji I'd added years ago, when everything was different. I didn't answer. By the time I reached the Hampton Inn near the mall, nothing fancy, but clean, I already had 40 missed calls. 40. I checked in, went to the room, and put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I stayed there for 3 days. Peter called, sent messages, showed up twice, knocking on the door until hotel security escorted him out. The second time, the guard, a kind man named Curtis, asked if I wanted to file a complaint. I said no, not yet. On the third day, I called a lawyer. A good recommendation from a friend who had divorced 2 years earlier. I started the paperwork, sat in a modern office with leather chairs, and told everything. The lateness, the disrespect, the admission that it was all about power. The lawyer, Patricia, always attentive, immaculate, told me, "You have grounds to claim emotional distress." That became almost a habit, like being able to breathe deeply after 6 years of suffocating. The memorial service for Joan, the larger one for family and friends who hadn't been able to attend the first, was the following Saturday, 1 week after her death. I went alone. I drove there myself. I wore the same black dress. Peter, of course, was there too, standing near the entrance, completely lost among people who had known him his entire life, but who now, without Joan to smooth things over, invent excuses or say, "You know how Peter is," with that understanding smile, treated him like a stranger. I stayed in the back. I didn't sit with him. I didn't even return his gaze when he stared at me, eyes begging for a reaction. After the ceremony, after the goodbyes, with the hall almost empty, I walked toward my car in the parking lot. It was one of those gray Chicago days when the sky and the pavement look like the same thing. I took out my keys, was about to reach the car when I heard hurried footsteps behind me. Fast steps, almost running. "Please," Peter's voice came out broken, hoarse, maybe from crying so much or holding it in. "Please, just listen to me." I turned around. He looked destroyed, like he hadn't slept in days, which was probably true. His suit was wrinkled again, his hair completely disheveled, his eyes red. "I'm going to change everything," he said, the words tumbling out desperately. "I'll go to therapy, real therapy. Not just talking to a counselor, but finding a psychiatrist. I'll prove to you that I can be different. Now I really understand. I swear I understand what I did, what I've been doing. My mother's death, Alex leaving, you leaving. Now everything finally makes sense." I looked at him, waiting. "I'll be on time," he continued, "for everything. I'll set alarms, leave earlier. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll respect your time, your schedule, everything. Please, please don't leave me. I can't lose you too." "What time did you say you'd be home the day I packed your bags?" I asked. He blinked. "What? You sent me a message with an exact time. What time was it?" Peter's face went blank, empty. He truly didn't remember. I watched him search his memory, his eyes moving side to side like he was scrolling through files in his head, his mouth opening and closing with nothing coming out. I don't... You said you'd be home at 6:30, I said. "You arrived at 7. You were half an hour late to your own eviction. You didn't even notice. That's who you are." I got into the car and started the engine. Peter stayed there, in the parking lot, mouth open, trying to find a word that wouldn't come. I looked at him in the rearview mirror as I drove away. He hadn't moved. He was still there, in that wrinkled suit, alone in the empty parking lot, finally feeling what it's like to be the one left waiting. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story touched you in any way, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment what you think or what you would have done in her place. Your support helps this channel grow so much and allows more people to hear stories like this. See you in the comments. See you in the next video.